you'll probably never take
That's
me
a good
back,
point,
and
though. A lot of
I
people-
know this.
I was just thinking out to say, like, keep the second clear.
I'm nervous. I said, angel. I'm so desensitized.
Don't want to struggle. Welcome, everybody, to the Q&A with Andrew Lowe at Mission Workshop and Lowe Bicycles. My name is Dustin Klein. I'm here to introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Andrew Lowe. I met Andrew Lowe several years ago at the airport on the way to Interbike. And I don't know, we ended up sitting next to each other on the plane. He bought me a beer, which was pretty cool.
You snuck up next to me. You were like 2 rows behind me.
I was like, hey, can I sit next to you?
Yeah, there was an empty seat. I remember the guy next to us was kind of pissed that you came up because he liked to have that buffer zone, but...
But right away, I knew that we hit it off. We were just like cut from the same cloth. I found out that, we got to talking about what we do and how we were, why we're going to Interbike. And the way that he runs his frame company is very similar to the way that I had started my company, which is called Cadence, which is a clothing company. But we both had very similar paths with like teaching ourselves what to do, doing everything in-house, just like put your head down and just like go for it and just see what happens. And I thought that was so impressive. He's doing that with bike frames in San Francisco, which is not normal. And very impressive. So
Very expensive.
and very well, part of the challenge. Yeah. I gotta look at the notes. Yeah, and I guess just his DIY ethic was like kind of just one of the things that tied it together. You know, we ended up becoming close friends, doing several projects together, and continue to do to this day. We used to ride bikes all the time together. We don't do that anymore. But I am continued to be impressed by him, and am glad to call him my friend. So everybody, welcome Andrew Lowe. Oh, shit. And tonight's Q&A is going to be moderated by Kevin.
Well, thank you, Dustin. That was really nice.
All right, buddy. We've been talking about this one for a little while. You ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. So my idea for the whole evening is kind of segregated into 3 different ways. So the way it all started, where we are now, and then what your vision for the future is. So to start it off, man, what's your background? How did you get into frame building? What careers did you have prior to? And where did you get the skills from?
Well, that's a lot of lifetime in that question. You know, that was at least a 10-year process to getting to this point.
Take your time. We all got it.
Sure. Well, I guess, you know, if you want to know like where I'm coming from and where I'm starting from, I've always been into making things. And, you know, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an inventor, an engineer, and an artist. And, you know, I've been, I would always think of things in my head that I was into airplanes and cars, and so I'd always design these crazy cars in my head and just get, you know, the designs would just get more and more intricate, and you know, so everything I've done, it's always been, you know, I want to build something, I want to design something that works, something that's beautiful, something, you know, something that's just crazy, whatever. But yeah, you know, so as a kid, I always liked art and drawing, and I was good at it, and so, you know, I definitely got, you know, a lot of positive feedback from people as a kid in that sense, and that, you know, so I knew that that being creative was for me, you know, and making things, building things, you know. I was into Legos, I do model airplanes as a kid, things like that. So, you know, fast forward, you know, a bunch of years later on, I ended up going to school out at University of Colorado, and for a while I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I ended up studying fine art, and so I actually painted, I have, you know, so I had a chapter of my life which was all painting, but while I was up there, I had a Jeep, and out in Colorado, off-roading is a big thing. And, you know, it's almost like how the fixed gear thing is here in San Francisco. You know, there was like a whole thing out there. And, you know, it was kind of, there was something very badass about it, you know, because I remember I had a little red Cherokee. It was just a 4-banger, it was nothing. But I saw, you know, I see these big Jeeps, you know, rolling around town, and so I kind of got interested in the idea of just, you know, modifying something and making it yours and making it mean and aggressive. And I think in a lot of the work that I do, it's like I always like this aggression, and, you know, and
Please continue.
oh, thank you. So I kind of I got the idea. I wanted to do this thing, learn how to build a Jeep, and that sort of evolved into me. I ended up finding this shop out there that was just this very independent shop, very underground. You know, everything about them is how not to run a business, basically. But the owner of the shop was a madman, and he was terrible. Like but he was brilliant at the same time, and he had these concepts for Jeeps, you know, and you know, our thing was, we do, I mean, you guys probably don't really, you know, the whole Jeep world is like is over here, bikes are over there, and it's a completely different thing, but a lot of the conventional wisdom in Jeeps is like, you know, you're building these boxy, just like rednecky kind of things just to, like, go up on big rocks and go through mud. And what this guy, Dave Lund, it was Fat Jeeps with a PH. So his whole thing was like, he wanted to have attitude. He wanted, the roll cages, they had to look like they would fit in a Porsche, So, you see like a Jeep Wrangler or slammed out roll cages. And so I got into that whole thing for a while. And I really liked designing these roll cages and really playing with that idea of making these little monsters, basically.
Would you say that's like where your infatuation with tubing started?
Well, it's definitely where I learned how to miter tubing. And yeah, the idea that you can take, these long, narrow cylinders and make a form out of it was, it was really cool. And it was really a neat opportunity that I got. It was definitely a very weird time in my life, but I learned a lot. And I think eventually over time I got turned off by the whole kind of redneck attitude of the off-road world. I was sort of like culturally illiterate a little bit when I was younger, so I didn't really see that until after a while I started seeing these guys don't care about the environment. They don't, they have this like macho attitude, and so. But anyway, so working at that shop, that's where I got my basis for metal fabrication, where I learned about tubing construction and doing tube to tubes, and so as I started getting out of that world and sort of being more gravitated toward like the cycling world, which is a much more sort of sensitive, in touch with yourself kind of world, which is, I wanted to carry some of that aggression over into it. And so, I think that's one of the things that informed, what we're doing now is like trying to make really mean bikes, basically.
Well, with that being said, what year did you actually start Low Bicycles?
So, Low Bicycles, I guess, we made the logo in 2010, so that's when we started it. And I built my first two frames on my own in 2010. And I'd built a frame previously in 2009 at UBI. It's over there. It's that steel one, that rusty steel thing hanging there.
The first low frame.
Yeah.
Has it ever been written?
No, that one was never written. The thing with that one is I had no interest in writing it. It was more of just an exercise for me. And also the bottom bracket drop, I think, is like 15 millimeters on that thing, and the geometry got all screwed up. But it's I know there was a reason, and I can't remember exactly why, but there was a reason why I had to like tweak the geometry, and so like the seat tube, it's like 78 degrees, but it was a proof of concept, and it was my first one, and all I really cared about was just sort of seeing how the process went, and because by the time I'd gone to UBI, I'd already been working on sort of learning about the process. I think I really started in like 2007 was when I decided I want to start building bike frames. So it was a 2-year process before I got to UBI. And so I already had learned a lot about what goes on and what tooling you need and all that. But UBI was nice to see like just how they did it in that process. And so for me, it was more just an exercise. Like I really wasn't interested in writing that first frame.
Were there any bikes in particular that inspired your first designs?
Yeah, so I mean, my whole thing was, coming back from college, like around 2005, or was it 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. I came back and I could see the whole fixed gear bike thing here, the whole track bike thing here was just like, it was like what the skating thing was in the 90s in San Francisco, and there was like a real core here of people that were really doing something interesting. So, wait, what was the question again?
I said, what were the bikes that inspired your first design?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So anyway, so there was this thing going on here, and a lot of that for me was really looking at the bikes and the machines that people were riding. And initially first you notice like the fixie conversions, the steel stuff, things with like 450 millimeter chain stays, just really long and slack bikes that people were riding around. And then little by little, you know, you'd see something a little more aggressive. You know, then I started seeing some NJS frames around, and I was like, that looks like a little meaner, you know. And then you see, you know, some of the aluminum bikes with the oversized tube, and I was like, oh my God, like that looks tough. That looks like it means business. And so basically, you know, the two of the bikes that really stuck out in my mind were the Cannondale Track and then the KHS Aero. So the KHS Aero, I think, construction-wise, is not as pretty as the Cannondale, but it has that like pursuit look that was really mean, you know. And at the time, it was novel, you know. Bikes like those were hard to come by. So kind of my inspiration was like I wanted to build like something that was like a Cannondale pursuit, you know, something that was inspired by that. But I wanted to make it my own. Obviously I didn't want to do like an exact copy, but you know, that was sort of a big inspiration for me, for sure.
We have a couple examples of those here, don't we? The first 10?
Yeah, well, we got, one of the things I want to stay away from was doing like a round down tube the way they did it, but there's a navy blue bike there and the red one. Those were my the first two that I did on my own in the summer of 2010. And so, obviously those don't have the smooth weld yet. That took me a while to learn, but that was sort of the starting point, you know. That was my idea of like heading in that direction. So.
Well, I mean, so we got a little bit of a backstory of like where you came from and what your inspiration was. Like, I'd like to take a second to like touch on what the industry is working with now. So with like the reemergence of high-end aluminum road bikes into the racing market, such as like the new CAD 12 or the specialized LA Sprint. What are your thoughts on aluminum? Why do you choose aluminum? Can you like outline your philosophy a little bit?
So, for me, aluminum, at the very base, dollar for dollar, aluminum is the best material you can use for a race bike. And I wanted to build a race bike. And I wanted it to be simple and straightforward and no nonsense. And the aluminum was the material to go with. And then just from an aesthetic point of view, I like oversized tubing. I like the fact that you can, you know, with a lot of like, you know, lug steel frames, it's like 1-inch tubes to 1-inch tubes, and they're very beautiful. But I really like the idea of like really opening up the possibilities and doing just different shapes, tubes, you know, aero, stiff, whatever, you know. So that was one of the appeals for me.
Well, I mean, with like, it seems like the market has been endlessly dominated by carbon fiber recently. How do you feel aluminum compares and/or triumphs?
Well, one thing I think with carbon fiber, I think people tend to think that all carbon fiber is created equal, and it really isn't. There are some top-end, top-notch carbon fiber frames out there that are really amazing bikes to ride, and you know, and they really do beautiful things with it. But for the most part, a lot of the market is just glutted with, you know, mid-range, mediocre carbon fiber frames, which I guess make the customer feel good because they think, you know, they're buying a carbon fiber frame, so they feel like they're buying performance. But you know, in terms of how aluminum compares with those frames, I think a well-built aluminum frame will definitely outperform a carbon, you know, most accessible carbon fiber frames that people buy. So, you know, if you're really thinking carefully about when you're making a decision about what you want out of a bike, you know, a lot of people would be surprised to learn that they'd get a lot more benefit out of an aluminum frame for the budget that they have. So.
I mean, coming from like a construction standpoint, like what things is Lowe doing innovation or construction-wise that's pushing boundaries, would you say?
Well, that's the thing is like I don't consider myself an innovator in any way at all. You know, what we're trying to do at Lowe is, you know, we're trying to really take principles that have been proven and that work, you know, and we want to do those things well. And You know, so our focus is more on the quality, you know, on the performance, the quality, but, you know, for us, being at the cutting edge of the latest technology, it's, you know, we're a small company, we have no business being there, and B, it's not really most beneficial, you know, for what we're trying to do. So, there's,
It's all right, man. Take a breather.
sorry, I got a long trains of thought here, but yeah, I think, wait, what was the question again? I'm going to ask you that a few
All
times.
right. Hold on. So the question was, what things is Lowe doing on an innovation or construction level that are pushing boundaries?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, what we're pushing is we're trying to make one of the best damn aluminum frames that money can buy. And that's our main focus. You know, we want the performance to be right, we want the feel to be right, and we want the look to be right. And, you know, we don't worry about being, you know, the first with this technology or that technology.
So it's safe to say that you're just trying to hone your craft instead of following trends?
Yes.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So this is actually a personal question for me. Like, how did your inception as a track bike builder pave the way into the now current cyclocross and road bike design and also in manufacturing?
So I guess for us, you know, one of the main things, and this is part of our mission statement, is that we've always wanted to grow with the riders that, you know, that we've worked with, and I think, and one of the things about Lowe Bicycles, it really is what makes it Lowe Bicycles is the riders, you know, and the people around it, and the people that appreciate what we're doing, and so we started with those people, and those people have been growing, you know, into cyclocross, road, and into other avenues of cycling other than just the track bike. So for us, it's just been a natural progression, you know, and I personally, you know, I don't want to build the same bike for the rest of my life. You know, I want to take on new challenges. You know, I've been itching to do these bikes for a while now, so it really wasn't anything contrived. It was just, you know, just growing with our people, basically, and just trying to go with that.
What people were responsible for supporting you along in this process? Anybody you want to call out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people, and this is one that I was thinking about a lot tonight on my way over here. And I'm sure I'm going to forget people, but there were a few key people that supported me in the beginning. First and foremost, my girlfriend Katie. You know, she was. You know, she saw the whole thing. You know, she put up with me talking about the tools. I mean, and that was one of the things. You know, her thing was like tools. You know, because I was for about 3 years I was just obsessed with what tools to buy. But you know, she was there by my side and she helped me. Other people is my friend Omar Al Mufti, who actually moved to New York now, and I wish he could be here tonight because he was really important too in terms of the vision, and he was one of the first people to see what I was doing with. You know, once he saw my first frames, I think he was like, okay, I get what you're doing, and I see it, and like, so you know, we would just, he got me really energized, and you know, we would talk about it for you know hours on end, whenever, and then Travis and Dustin, when they were working at Freewheel, you know, they were really supportive in the beginning. I know those two guys before I started, you know, and I talked about. You know, about the idea with them, and you know, they were like, "Yeah, you know, go for it," and yeah, so
good friends.
Yeah, but I mean, once they saw the frame, they were really stoked about it, and I think and Travis really went out on a limb. You know, back in the beginning, you know, he put some of those bikes in the Freewheel shop over on Hayes Street, and you know, and it was good to get that kind of support from, you know, from somebody who'd been in the industry and who knows, you know, who knows good stuff when they see it and who knows bad stuff when they see it. So.
Great. Well, you obviously just said it to us, but we all know that like the people are really at the core of any small business. Can you talk about some of your current sponsorships or relationships that you have going now? To touch on maybe TCB Lowe, the cyclocross team, Mark and Steve. You know.
Yeah, so I mean the TCB thing, it's a really exciting thing. That's another person I need to mention is Chaz Christiansen. I mean, he was one of the people in the beginning who saw what it was, and he's always been a loyal MASH rider, but he did help get me in touch with the right people to sort of make things happen. So we've always had kind of an ongoing relationship, and we've always known that there's going to be some sort of interaction because we're all there in the community, and having the TCB race team was a perfect outlet for this because it was a way we could all work together without stepping on anybody's toes. These guys, like, they get what we're doing at Low Bicycles, and we get what they're doing out there. I've seen TCB grow, and it's an amazing thing what they've done. So it's really nice to have they're like colleagues, because we've all come up in the same thing together. We're all trying to come up in the same way together, I think. So.
Well, how much of your partnership, like with sponsorships and stuff, has been tangible feedback for your product development?
Yeah, so a lot of it is these guys, they help me get down to details. And also, I got to mention, Mark Marino and Steve Tortorelli, in terms, they've been helping me a lot with the development of the road bike. And, so like anything, you start out with your idea, and then you basically eliminate everything that's not possible with the idea. You present that to these guys, they ride it around, and they come back to you, and they tell you this, that, or the other. And so I've gotten a lot of valuable insight from them. And we're gonna, and this is stuff that we're just starting out with too, I mean, we have a lot of plans in terms of working with riders, and going forward, we're really gonna work a lot more, because one of the things we want to focus on more is racing, because ultimately our goal is to build race bikes, and we love that, we were able to come up in the culture that we've come up in. But at the end of the day, all you guys that are in this, you guys want to ride a real bike that's a real race bike, and that you're not riding some marketed fixie, some whatever that they try to sell to you, And so I think that's what we're trying to do, and having these guys riding these bikes and giving the feedback that they do helps us stay on track and keep that goal in mind for us.
Well, while we're on the topic of people that have been involved with your company and people that you support and people that support us, does anybody out here have any great questions that I haven't already covered?
I do.
Yeah, you're the man.
Trevor, what's up? Trevor is he was my very first employee, by the way. Yeah.
So my question is, what were some of your biggest failures, and how did those failures get you to where you are today? Like, how did you learn from those failures and push on?
So with the Low Bicycles, you mean, or in general?
Because I mean, you said yourself, and also Dustin said that you guys want to keep everything in-house and learn everything yourselves. So with that being said, there was going to be definitely a lot of hiccups along the way. What were those hiccups? And what did you learn? How did you troubleshoot through them?
So I think one of my biggest obstacles is myself, and I've always kind of been a solitary person, and so I've always felt like I could do things on my own, and that I could just make it happen by will of power. But I think I've hit a lot of dead ends with Low Bicycles. Working with different people, just with that attitude, I think it's limited me in a lot of ways. And so one of the best things that's happened at Low Bicycles is learning that it's the people around it that makes it what it is. And it's really helped me. Any major advancement that I've made in Low Bicycles is because I've learned to reach out to people and learn to trust other people and to work with them, and not just treat it as my own personal thing. And not make it about me. So, it's good to see you, man.
I'm a faker.
Not everybody at once. Anyone else?
Come on,
We got this guy over here.
Say it into the mic, though.
Hi, Andrew. I had a quick question. How did you go from the UBI steel bike to obviously working with aluminum most of the time?
Yeah.
And then if there's any difference why you use Easton tubing instead of obviously the others.
So I had always intended to work with aluminum. That, like, from day one, that was my intention. Unfortunately, there were no bike building classes out there that taught aluminum. Although one of the nice things was the guy who was teaching my class that I was at was Paul Sadoff of Rock Lobster, and he makes great aluminum frames. So even though I did a steel frame in that class, like, I was still able to talk to him and learn about he helped me out, gave me some tidbits about working with aluminum. But aluminum, I always intended to work with aluminum. Like, I had a pretty clear sort of picture of the frame that I wanted to build. And so I think that's why, I was asked earlier if I had ridden that frame. And, yeah, sure, I might build it up next week and try to ride it. But for me, it was really just like, it was just sort of like, okay, I did that, now, like, the next thing, like, let's make this happen, and so a few months later, I was able, well, no, it wasn't, it was a year later, and then I finally built that red one, and that was the first one that I was riding. And if you're wondering why the fork is all bent, is I got run over by a Jeep, actually. So, so a red Jeep Cherokee, yeah. So things come full circle, I guess. Does that answer?
The Easton
Oh yeah.
tubing.
So the Easton tubing, that was mostly because they had the sizing of tubes that I wanted, and we use a lot less of that now than we used to. Most of my tubing now is proprietary, and so it's all made to my own specifications now, pretty much. So we have a few things that we're still Easton, but we've been phasing it out over the years. But it's great tubing, but what we're using now is made in the same factories. Easton stopped making their tubes in the U.S. a while back, so. That's why I asked. Fair question.
Can you talk about a little bit about how when you went to the UBI school, like, it's a very steel-intensive program, and you had to kind of do a lot of extra work to learn aluminum because they didn't teach aluminum. So, like, that sounds kind of hard.
Well, the biggest thing is I think, well, for one thing, was everybody was saying, like, you can't do aluminum, only big factories can do aluminum, and so it was nice talking to Paul, and he was like, that's all bullshit. Like, you can do it, you just need to heat treat it correctly and make sure you're welding it correctly. But yeah, part of the thing was, one of the difficult things is with bikes, you need a lot of fixtures, to hold tubes in place. And, when you're doing steel tubes, most of it is just round tubing. So, there's a lot of tube blocks and tooling that's already available that you can buy, for that market. But for what I was trying to do, there was really no, on the track bikes here, we have this teardrop shaped down tube, and so there's no real way to hold that, that was, like, readily available. So that's just one example, the fixtures, learning to weld aluminum, that's a big learning curve as well. I mean, that's really what I spent 2 years just welding. I don't know if you guys saw that we have some little triangles over there. I mean, I just welded these things every week. I just went in and just weld more and more, and so.
And then where was your space, too? You were working out of Cell Space, is that right?
Yeah, I was at, I don't know, you guys know Cell Space?
You maybe describe it for those of us that don't know.
Yeah, well, it's like a burner collective, basically. So
Cheap rent.
yeah, it was great. I was there. I was $70 a month, and I mean, I built all my first 10 frames. I was able to do there. So without that, I don't know that I would have been able to get started. So, working there definitely gave me a leg up to get started.
Wasn't your space, like, kind of in the middle? It, like, wasn't a room. It was, like, in between spaces or something? Was it shared?
Yeah, well, it was like their loading ramp, and then they had, like, a wood shop to one side and a metal shop on one side. And then I remember because the wood guy, there was a little rivalry with the wood and metal guys, because the wood guys, they would always be planing, like, these big boards, and they would just kick up dust everywhere. And I don't know if you guys know, but wood dust, aluminum dust, any kind of dust is like an explosion hazard, basically. So yeah, those were fun days working in there. But
And then what about I remember you built an oven, and I don't remember what it was for, but you built a fucking oven for doing something that you needed to do with the bikes.
Yeah, so again with aluminum, one of the things is that you have to heat treat the frames after you're done welding them. With steel, you don't have to do that. So that was another thing a lot of guys like doing steel were saying, like, oh, you can't do aluminum because you have to heat treat it, you got to do all this special shit to it or whatever. But like, and that's another thing I've learned about like the bike building industry or whatever, frames, whatever, is people, they put a lot of smoke and mirrors on the technology and the barriers of entry to do it, but a lot of it's really just work and practice. But yeah, I built an oven out of, I took an old KitchenAid double oven and I just ripped all the guts out and built a, just with metal framing studs and some sheet metal, just built an oven, and it works. We still use it today.
Yeah,
So.
you do still use
Yeah.
it. The
Well, it saves us
homemade
money,
oven
honestly,
baked your
because
frame.
Yeah, because like every frame we do, I remember being quoted as for heat treating it was like $75 per frame or something like that, and our costs are already so incredibly high to do these frames. That would have killed it. So it's too bad. We were thinking about bringing the oven here, but we it's like
Thank God.
yeah.
So the most important.
Hold on, say it into the mic because the streamers can't hear you.
Mic me.
You got a little effort.
Let's say the backstory after.
The most important question of the evening.
I'm a little scared.
From the sandals, Andrew. Can you give us
yeah,
a
the
history
flip-flops.
of your sandals? Why?
I do it because my girlfriend Katie loves it. So. No, the sandals is just because, I don't know, my feet felt stuffy in the shop when I was working. And also, I don't know if you guys, I'll show you guys, but like one of the heels is worn out and the other one isn't. And the thing with that is actually when I'm welding, I like my pedal foot to be barefoot so I can feel the pedal. So, yeah, yeah, I know it is life on the edge. It's very dangerous.
So it's more of a Zen thing that you're one with the frame.
Yeah, it's just a feel thing, So, but yeah, but so you can see like I spend enough time 1 foot out, 1 foot in that one's worn out, one isn't, and that's how it is. So.
I got a question, Andrew.
Shoot.
Well, I think one of the more distinguishing qualities of all your bikes, besides the welding and the design, is the aesthetic, the pop, the colors. You want to talk a little bit about that? I know you used to fill a lot of custom orders, but maybe now you just kind of know what people like. You want to try new things, put out there a lot of colors.
Yeah, I mean, we're always, most guys want custom finish, I mean, we even started charging extra for custom, and they don't care. When they want it, they want it. But I think, my aesthetic with the bikes, and I wrote this on the website, we like supple lines, but I also like really bold, just solid things, and so I think like our logo, I think is a reflection of that, of just being this solid sort of shape, and not necessarily just like spindly little letters, but like this bold, solid, heavy thing. And I think, you see a lot of our bikes have high contrast, and just with anything I do, like drawing, painting, whatever, this stuff, I like high contrast. I like, I like to have that sort of, have a little drama in there, I guess, So, but overall, it's I wanted a boldness and aggressiveness, it's something to sort of reflect the way I feel, I guess, and just the way I want to express myself with what I'm making, And the nice thing about that is, we're building race bikes, and I think for you racers out there, I think part of racing is being in the right mindset when you're racing, and so I think. The performance of the bike and the way it's built is really important, but I also actually think the aesthetic is a really important thing too, because when you're a rider and you're getting on a bike, the look of that bike and the feel of that bike sort of will influence the way you feel when you're on that bike and when you're riding. So if you're riding, You know, so if we make a bike that looks fast, like I really believe that when a racer gets on that thing, something in their mind is going to push them to go faster, you know. So I think aside from just, you know, the technical parts that make the bike go fast, you know, the stiffness, the aerodynamics, whatever, the geometry, it's really the look of it. If you feel like you're you know, this bike is meant to go fast, you're going to go faster in your race.
One thing that I found that was interesting, when you first started, you were not involved with the bicycle world or the scene or the whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something that I think people maybe
I wasn't involved in any scene, man. I'll tell you, like, I always just do my own thing.
That's like a very large obstacle to overcome, though. So you had to, like, work your way into this, like, little world and then, like, you know, prove yourself, basically, which is something that's not easy to do, but you very successfully did it, which is, I think is very impressive. Like, could you speak about that process and, like, what that was like to try and get in?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, when I met you, you thought I was with the Macaframa guys, so, you know, that gave me, like, immediate ticket right in. And you were very nice to me, and we talked. That's Dustin asking the question, by the way. But my whole idea was just to, and I think I was a little naive, you know, and I've always felt like just show people the bike and they're gonna love it. And, you know, so, you know, I would go places where messengers would hang out and I would just park the bike and, you know, I would shamelessly just put cards in people's spokes. You know, I was that guy. And you know, Chaz was one of the first people to see the bike, I think. You know, Rob Salimo was another early one that, so wherever you are, Rob, I hope you're doing well. So. But, you know, it was guys like that really that saw it, that I know, like, if they're into it, I know other people are going to be into it. And, you know, and we just took it from there, basically. So, for me, it was just like, if I can I just make something, you know, if I think it's cool, hopefully other people will think it's cool, you know. And honestly, like, instead of me, the own force of my own personality getting into, like, a community like this, which I love being a part of, I think, I had to have this, like, crutch to get me into it, and that was the frames, you know. So, and I'm not ashamed to admit that, but yeah, that's how I got in. So.
I hear Tessa's got a question. I'm gonna pass this over to her.
I love that you were talking about racing earlier, but I want to mostly know about your cross frame and what inspiration went into the look and the geometry of designing that frame. So again, with the geometries and you know, and a lot of the technical aspects of the frame, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and we really try to stick to proven geometries. But with that said, you know, we try to add our own twist to it. I think I don't know if you guys noticed that, you know, the new top tube look that we got going on a lot of the bikes. That's something that I'm really happy about. That worked out well, and so it's a combination of things. You know, we take rider feedback. We take, you know, just knowing what a cross frame is supposed to be and how that's supposed to work, and then we try to add our own look to it, basically. And so basically with all the new line, you know, we're kind of like in a Gen 2 sort of period with the bikes. And so with all of them, I tried to incorporate sort of like a cohesive look to them. But with the bike, you know, with the cross frames, we're just, you know, I'm starting with a very basic platform on the cross frames. You know, we're not starting with disc brakes yet. We don't have any like BB30 kind of stuff. We did do the tapered head tubes. I think that was an important feature to add. But we just start with a really basic platform that has, you know, that has sort of my philosophy on the tubing, the stiffness, and things I have. I took a lot of feedback from the TCB guys. You know, we started with a prototype and worked from there, and then after that, you know, we'll just start adding new things and trying new things and see what works. You know, just one piece at a time. You know, so. Just kind of gradually let it evolve, basically.
I have a few questions about racing, but on a personal level. What is your favorite race?
My favorite race? Are you talking about like track racing events, or?
Ideally, yeah.
I like watching sprint races, you know, one-on-one sprint races, because they're really confusing to figure out like what the whole strategy is and how, like, why are they going so slow? How does that help them? So
And then I like it too just because the bursts of aggression that come out of it as well. So that for track specific, I think that's one of the things that interests me. And then I like pursuit too, just because there's something very beautiful about being in an aero position and just going as hard as you can the whole time around it. I think that's a cool thing.
Okay, so then a few more on that. Would you say your favorite would be endurance or sprint?
I mean, me personally, I'm not an endurance guy. I'm more of a sprint guy. So I like that, and I think a lot of my design is sort of like sprint oriented. Other than the aero bikes, I think those are more like an endurance sort of thing. But there's something very aggressive about a sprint. I think that's sort of simpatico with like what we're trying to say with our bikes, basically.
And then Mercs or Le Mans?
The people or the bikes?
Either. I'll leave that open for you.
Both.
All right.
I don't know. Le Mans a pretty cool guy, I think. So.
Hey, what's up, man? You touched on a couple things that I thought were really rad, and I want to kind of bring that to the front. Is you built the oven out of a kitchen oven?
Yeah.
You had to get the frame blocks for the weird sized tubes to hold them in the jigs, and a long process of getting the cross bikes ready is you were like, I need to build the tools to bend the tubes myself. Yeah. And I think that you say that you're not an innovator, but at the same time, you DIY like everything in the shop, and you innovate your own tools. Like you may not innovate the bike designs, but you certainly, it seems like you figure out how to do everything yourself in-house. And if you could just kind of touch on that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to just innovate the frames. You innovate everything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, like, it doesn't matter what I'm building, but I think what keeps me going is the process, because, I'm building the same thing over and over and over again. And so it's fun to figure out how to make my own tools. I mean, and I have to, because, I had to build my own frame jig because a frame jig is $4,000. When I started, I didn't have that kind of money. Same deal with the oven. I just, how the hell am I going to heat treat these frames? So I had to work that out. But that's just what I do. I've always liked making shit. I've always liked doing it on my own. And so there's something really satisfying about that process. And I mean, that's what keeps me coming, because honestly, I have to weld 8 hours every day, and that is fatiguing as shit. It's not fun. It's, like, I'm really proud of my welding. I think I do some of the best damn welds in America on aluminum, but like, just say that. I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, thank you. But to me, it's still a slog to do that. And to me, what's interesting about this whole thing is the invention, is doing the tools. And so sure, maybe in that sense, behind the scenes we're innovating. But when somebody who doesn't see that, they ask me, well, what are you doing that's so special? It's like, honestly, I don't know. We're just building a great bike. That's, that's all we're trying to do.
But you are doing something special. It's just behind the scenes.
Well, thanks. Okay. Okay. Hey, Katie.
Okay. What is the most rewarding part of your job that's happened in the past year?
The most rewarding is when I get emails from my customers that tell me this is the best bike I've ever ridden. That's pretty fucking rewarding. And then working with the teams I've been working with has been a really rewarding thing. Getting the feedback that they've been getting me that's really a key thing. And then also, just having, we're really building up a great team now, and so watching things coming together has been really nice.
Any specific emails or feedback? Any specific time?
Why, is there one you have in mind?
No, I'm just wondering.
You know how my memory is, so I'm not good at thinking of specific instances, but I'm in my shop a lot. I don't really see how people perceive this brand, how people feel about the bikes, and so this is rewarding. Like coming here and like seeing all the support. Like, and seriously, thank you all for coming out. Like, this is really something for me. but that's what it is, and so there's that, and then just also in terms of when I'm in the shop, the most rewarding things are seeing things coming together the way I wanted to, and more and more I'm getting closer and closer to like my image of the perfect frame. What's like what I want to see in a frame. And so seeing that's my new orange bike over there that I'm really excited to start riding soon. And so seeing that next to the first bike that I built that's basically unrideable, that's rewarding, is seeing that progress.
So you talked about Trevor over here being your first employee. You talked about cell space, first space you had to weld and build bikes. What about your team now? How many people you have working under you? I mean, I know you expanded the shop this year, and you have a lot of other people helping every day.
So I think to answer, I should first acknowledge everybody that's gone through and worked at Low Bicycles. So we started with Trevor, and Trevor's a real pioneer because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing then, and so yeah, no, Trevor, I love you, man, and I'm glad we're here talking. And
I get to learn so much cool shit, like talking about the fucking oven and nonsense, and like helping you break into like the bike world, and like just geeking out about like, oh, I saw Rob Salino, oh my god, and like you nerding out, it was cool, like it was great. You were this amazing fabricator, and like Chaz talked about it very in depth. Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, dude. I mean, and it was. I remember when you came and talked to me, and I mean, there was you had an excitement to you that excited me also. And it's like to see other people that want to be a part of that. And so you were one of the first people to be there and be like, I want to be a part of this. I want to acknowledge Fergus Tanaka also. He really helped me kind of move into the race world. And we worked with Chica Sexy, and that was the first track team that I sponsored. So those guys are awesome. And so he was really important, and he worked with me for a while. And then there's Dave Vitrano, and he broke his wrist, and he did not stop working, and he just kept working. And these were more tough times that we got through, but he was there, and then after Dave, there's Chris Swim, who's a commercial diver now. So he's out in Santa Barbara living life. And then my friend Josh Thompson, who's been with me for 3 years. When I broke my wrist in 2014, he had to leave, and he ended up working for his brother because I couldn't keep him employed, which was unfortunate. But then I was lucky enough to get Michael Torres, who's over there, and this guy never makes mistakes ever. And don't stop. Yeah, and so I think you've seen a lot of the transition that's been going on. I think because you came in when I broke my wrist last year, and I basically had to start from zero, and so he's been with me working through this transition, and it's been great having somebody that you can rely on that just does everything right and does it without a sweat. And then we have, and then the next person to come on the team was Kelly Kohler Gorman, and she's not here tonight. She's out in Big Sur having a great time. But that woman, she's so organized, she's so disciplined, and she does all the things that I suck at in terms of just making sure, answering customer emails. I would leave customers hanging for 2 weeks at a time, and so it's really nice to not have angry customers anymore. Yeah. And then ultimately, those are the people that make the business. So, what she does cannot be discounted. And then most recently we have Kevin over here, who's also put this together. So you should all give it up for Kevin because he's the guy. So, yeah. And so he's kind of the final piece of the puzzle now in terms of really, getting connecting low bicycles with the rest of the world, because one of my problems is, I love building frames, but I'm not like Mr. like, hey, what's up, like, let's collaborate, let's partner up, let's do shit, So I think having Kevin here has really been great at reaching out to people. I mean, in the little time we've worked together, I mean, there's been such a huge turnaround that it's really been a great experience. So yeah, so I'm really excited. Like right now, we got a good team, and we got a good base to start with, and so we can. And obviously, I know I'm probably leaving out. Oh, Jake Ricker was also been helpful. He's not here tonight. I guess he's in New York, but he's been great to have there too. And then there's Harold, who's helped us with our website, which was a mess. And I've managed to make the new website a mess, but we're working on cleaning that up also. So yeah, it's and that's been a learning process for me. When I first started, I was convinced I was going to be a one-man show, but it really for what I'm trying to do, it really is a team effort, and to have these guys, it really is the key. It's all about the people you have around you, and I think Mike Sinyard said that too when he did his Q&A. But like it really is. Everybody has to bring something to the table. So, and we're finally getting to that point where people are bringing, where everybody's bringing different pieces. So.
I think we got time for maybe like 3, 4 more.
All right.
Okay. You said you were very creative-minded as long as you could remember, and now you own your own business. Do you think that creative aggression fueled owning your own business and working for yourself rather than someone else? And do you think you could ever have worked for someone else, or do you think you always had that push to just do your own thing?
Aside from Fat Jeeps, which was that was the only job I didn't get paid at, I've never been able to hold down a job for more than 3 months. So yeah, I can't work for other people. Yeah.
Is there on that, is there one quality that you think you can attribute to your success as your own boss versus working for other people?
I mean, with anything, there's a lot of luck. I've been in the right place at the right time. And that was one of the things that I saw when I started this. I knew I was in the right place to do what I wanted to do. And I knew that I could easily run into the right people to make it happen. In terms of me, I don't know. I mean, whatever, pride, stubbornness, whatever makes somebody think that they can go and do something, I guess I had some of that in there, but I knew what I wanted to do, I guess, and I just went for it. So.
How many hours going to each bike, labor?
That's a tough question because we build like 6 at a time, but it's always changing too. I mean, it's complicated. I mean, we put in, I don't know. For me, it's 9 hours of welding or something for each bike, and we do for all our bikes we have a smooth weld technique, which is a double pass weld. So anything I weld, it takes twice as long to weld, basically. But it's I've tried to break it down, and I've always gotten different numbers for that, just because we're always doing things in batches, But yeah, I can weld one frame in one day, but Michael has to cut it. Michael does all the mitering, all the tube prep, all the decaling, all the finish work. All I do is weld the bikes, and Michael does the rest. So you can ask him how much time it takes to make a bike. So.
I'm
sorry, I can't answer that any better than that.
I'm sure we could keep going around all night, but yeah, anybody else? Final call. Hey, this man. And then we got one back over here, and then we'll come to a conclusion. Pass this over to him.
Or just reiterate the question.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
All these new bike, or all the mainstream bike companies, their press releases are borderline ridiculous. It's like our left chain stays 15% stiffer, right? And people are like, so at some point that even the lowest model they sell will catch up to more than enough for human power output. Where do you think the bike industry is going, and how do you think you can differentiate yourself in the future?
You mean where are they going with like their tech or their marketing or what?
Well, with the tech, because at a certain point, a bike will be more than enough for any human, right?
Yeah. I'm sure you guys know this too, but I think a lot of the technical stuff there, it's a lot of bullshit. Like, there's one brand they're saying that they have this invisible weld technology, and I'm not saying it's bullshit, and it's a beautiful bike, and they do good work. So I don't want to talk shit about them, but it's just a double pass weld is all it is, And so like, all the bike brands are doing that. So in terms of where the bike industry is going, it seems like there's a lot of people like disc brakes. People like gadgets on the bikes. They like trick little things. And so I think whether they're trends or whether things stick, I don't know. I'm really not the right person to answer that question. And to be honest, like I really don't pay a lot of attention to that stuff. I'm really just trying to take things that I know work and then build upon that. In terms of where the bike industry is going, I have no idea. I just try to keep up in the way that I can, really. So
I think we got one more back here about the future of where you're going, Andrew.
So, as you said earlier, what you brought into the world was usually in your head a year, 2 years before. Can we hear about some of the possible futures by hearing what's in your head now about designs, bicycles, or others?
Well, right now, I mean, I just came out of about a 2-year process of designing the new bikes. So, in the immediate future, I just want to focus on getting these bikes out there and really allowing people to see, how great aluminum can be, In terms of the future designs, I have other ideas, as we expand, there's other manufacturing techniques that I'd like to explore. With hydroform tubing and things like that, you can really get crazy with the design of the bike. We do aluminum. I'm even thinking about the possibility of doing carbon in the future. For me, it's right now I'm not so focused on the design of the bike because we have our whole new generation of bikes now. But where we go is I want to get closer, and I want every new design to be closer and closer to to really being accepted at the elite level is what I would like to do.
All right. Well, with that being said, we made it, Andrew. You made it, dude.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
On behalf of this guy up here, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. We have a whole ton of beer in the back. Please start drinking it, and now we can all just hang out and have fun. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. It was great. Thank you.